Yes. Oh, it's being recorded.
Just making sure. Well, thank you for being here, everybody. Home and in the room. My name is Mary Coleman. I'm an environmental educator. I work for Pierce County Planning and Public Works. I've been an environmental educator for about 20 years or more, and almost 17 years with the county. I love my job. I love getting out all over this county and talking to all kinds of people and talking about all kinds of things. So this is not my specialty in what I teach in. I teach mostly about waste reduction, recycling, composting. All of those things have to do with waste, which is how our program is funded. So a tiny bit of what y'all pay for your garbage to be picked up, the library pays, goes back to fund us to teach the community how to make less garbage and be more sustainable. So I don't think we'll ever run out of a funding source. Welcome. Um, I teach about all kinds of gardening classes too, and some food preservation. I happen to teach this because I love it, and people keep asking me to teach it. So we do this in partnership with another group called Harvest Pierce County, which is part of the Pierce Conservation District, and it's a workshop series called the Edible Gardens Workshop. It's in its 14th year now. Got flyers over there if we want to attend this class again. It's the same, but a little bit different, and I do it in May, I think. Yeah, May 9th. And that workshop series goes all year, different topics. So yeah. If y'all could let me know, and if you're at home, type in the chat, and y'all in the room, we'll go around. Just tell me how long you've been gardening and like maybe what it is you're hoping to get out of this class. That would help me understand who I'm talking to. And then I'll ask Katie to tell me what they say in the chat. How long have you been gardening?
Oh, all my life with my mom. We did rhubarb and yeah, that was a big yard stuff. And we started in the soil out near Graham, a little closer to Eatonville. But now I've moved to Graham. It is just thick rocks, no soil. I can't get anything.
Oh,
So it's a little frustrating out here. And then where I live, it's a lot of pests, but it just turn it, there's a new bug. Do something growing on plants. So I'm here to learn.
awesome.
And how to get rid of those things. So
Okay, good to know.
what you
I've been slowly killing things my whole life. And likewise, I moved out to Graham 15 years ago, and I thought I moved to this lush place, and it turns out there's a lot of clay and rock, and then so whatever vegetation does grow, it's thick with all kinds of things I want to eat, the things I want to eat, and so the learning curve has been extraordinarily steep, and I'm hoping to just keep gaining knowledge in the things that work for where we are, so I can grow something successful.
yes.
Stand away spuds is what we call those rocks. They're hard to compete with.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
How about you?
Currently about 20 years, but also about 5, 10 years when I was, we had to grow food. Rabbits, chickens, pigs, and lots of potatoes.
Lots of potatoes. They're the best. They last all winter.
Do you corn at all?
We did some corn, yes. This was all in Lewiston, Idaho, where we actually had soil.
Yeah.
It's hard out here because it doesn't get very hot.
Glacial till. Yeah.
Yeah. But then, of course, life took over. We moved over here in 69 and, finally got back to it after 50 years-ish. Yeah.
Okay, welcome back again. Be there. How much back there?
Well, I garden off and on. Like some years I can't be bothered to get the tiller out because we have some raised beds. I mean, they're not that raised, but that's where I do the gardening. That's where I decided to do the gardening. And the rocks come up every year. Every year there's new rocks.
They grow babies, you know.
They really do. They do. So then I put soil in, but I think I'm gonna need to get a trunk bed of soil to put in, really. But the things I have the most problems with are anything leafy because of slugs. And I love slugs as an idea and in like the preserve in the, the parks and everything, but not in my garden. So I concentrated on peas and beans and zucchini and cherry tomatoes, and those all grow really well. And I've done potatoes in grow bags, like container gardening is really good out here.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much what you gotta do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know about the place to get soil over there, the tap room, if that's what it's called.
Yeah, tag grow.
Yeah. You have to get your soil there. It's just so much cheaper than getting it by the bags. You can get a whole bag for your truck full for $15 opposed to spending hundreds of dollars on
I
it.
just have to convince my husband to get extra property. Yeah.
Small note on the
Yeah.
agro.
Yeah.
Don't get the cheapest stuff they have because that's like 80% sand as I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's at least the next step.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we
my
have different kinds.
everywhere.
And one more.
And I'm been gardening on and off my whole life. I have found that I had a couple small gardens in Graham and I was pretty much growing rocks. But I moved out to Puyallup and I'm gonna do a lot of stuff in containers. So to see how that goes, I do have a small bed, but I'm just gonna get that raised up a bit and then start from there. But my biggest problem, even out in Graham, was the rats and the mice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've heard that Washington is well known for rats and mice. So it's one of the top 5 in the country.
So in our Zoom people, we have Alicia is a first-time gardener last spring, so basically brand new, she says. Annette said that she is beginner with some experience in yard gardening, but wants to keep pests away naturally and loves vegetables. Carrie says she's been gardening about 20 years and lives in Summit Puyallup area and the soil is tough. She's also a pet owner and a new grandma, so looking for new ways to support natural controls in her garden. And Laura said she has no experience gardening and trying to learn so she could grow things without them dying. And a variety of experience.
That's a big one, the pets, the kids.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I certainly don't know everything and I don't have time to cram what I do know in an hour and a half. So if you have suggestions or things that work for you, feel free to share and use the chat at home and Katie can share stuff with the class here in person.
Yeah.
If I stand over here, do I show up okay?
You do, yeah.
Okay. So we have some real basic agenda. See if I can get this to work. 1 second. And that should go away. Maybe. Stop clicking on it. Just quick overview of vegetable gardening here in the Pacific Northwest. We'll talk about the difference between insect and disease damage. I can tell the difference. We're gonna do a quick activity. Well, it's not quick, it's kind of the bulk of the class. We're just gonna look at some cool pictures. And then we'll go dive into identification pretty deep and do some prevention and remedies along the way. And then I'll share some resources with y'all. So I have a couple different handouts that we'll get to in a minute. But mostly I'd like to talk about the fact that we're talking about gardening here in Western Washington. This kind of ecoregion of where we live is very different than if you cross over the mountains in Eastern Washington, right? So it's very wet. We have more molds and mildews and moist environments for all kinds of critters that they love. So things that happen here are pretty specific to here, and things that happen where it's warmer, or maybe if you've moved here from somewhere else in the US, doesn't happen here because it's so wet. A lot of people are afraid of tomato hornworms. We don't get them here. It's too wet. So we're talking really specifically about gardening for vegetables in the PNW. I can't go into fruits, that's a whole other class.
Yeah.
And it turns out that most of the things that attack our vegetable gardens and eat them don't cross over into other parts of your yard. There's only a couple that will go from like your lawn or your grass over into your garden. Most other things are really specific to the groups, the families of vegetables that we can grow. And I find this fascinating because like I've lived here, my family's been here for many generations. I was always that kid outside, my nose in the dirt, like, what is this? What is this? My mom hated doing my laundry. You know, she never knew she'd find in my pockets, bringing friends home. And I got to know the native insects around here. Took an entomology class in college. Fascinating stuff. Thought I knew it all. Moved to Colorado. Totally different stuff out there. Like, oh, okay. Moved back here, got this job. We do some water quality testing with the kids. The things that you find in the creek, totally different. And they're in a different life stage than they are when you see them out in adults and flying around. And then started talking about gardening and like, oh, I love bugs. I do this. No problem. Oh, totally different bugs. Like, wow. So it is a pretty specific thing that we're talking about. Real quick, I want you to come up with the first animal that pops into your head. You can type this in the chat. Anybody want to share the first animal? Think of any animal.
Rat.
Slugs.
Deer.
Slugs.
Deer,
Rat.
rat, anything in the chat?
Nothing in the chat yet. Oh, rabbits.
Oh, and rabbits.
I know I set it up to be garden related animals, but most of the time when I ask people this question, I get dog, bear.
No.
I was gonna say deer, elk.
Yeah, big fuzzy mammals. People forget that these little critters are also animals. And this is a pie chart of the entire animal kingdom. So that little sliver that's pulled out at the bottom, those are just the vertebrate animals. So that includes all mammals, all the fishes, all the amphibians, all the reptiles, and all the birds. Everything else there is an invertebrate, an animal that doesn't have a spine. And then if you look here, these are all insects. We got some other invertebrates like spiders and all the mollusks in the water, some types of worms, all the worms. But a majority of the life on our planet that are animals are bugs. So I want to just impress upon everybody how important they are. They hold up the entire food web, so I don't want to wipe them out. And I know you're here because you care and you don't want to wipe them out, but you want to help your plants be successful. And it's actually pretty easy once you figure out what it is you're battling. So hopefully I will teach you to fish and you'll be successful. So I have some notes. Let me pass these out. All of this is written down and you shouldn't have to take too many notes. Everything's in here that I'm going to talk about. But by all means, you're welcome to take whatever notes you'd like. So one of the first steps when you see damage on a plant is you should know what are you dealing with. Is it from a disease or is it from a critter? So these are some really basic things. If it's sign of disease, you're going to see spots. You're going to see like the whole plant not looking great. If you've planted things in a row, you can see the progression kind of going down the row. They're turning yellow. Powdery is a sign of disease. Things, how many of you've seen powdery mildew on your plants? Yeah. It's the Northwest, of course, we've got mildew, rots and spots. Whereas critter damage tends to be munching, droppings from them leaving, from munching everything, slime trails from our sluggy friends. If something's been chewed loose, like the plant looks fine and then it just fell over, like what the heck? Something chewed it loose in the ground. So it's localized, it's a single attack, little holes, obviously. So once you've determined that you're not dealing with a disease, you're dealing with critter damage, then you're going to move forward with trying to figure out what it is. And I have my asterisks here just to remind people that sometimes malnutrition can look like disease. So make sure you've got healthy soil to start with. Question.
We have a question in the chat asking if we can have the slides emailed to people afterwards. I'm not sure if you guys have any,
We can do that if you've got their emails.
yes, okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
no problem. You can probably also just send a link to the notes, which has everything too.
Okay, yeah,
We'll chat.
we'll get notes at the end.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about critter damage. And to do that, I like to go back to buggy basics. Talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. To know if you're dealing with an insect, you know, they have 3 body parts, right? Things like spiders have 2, millipedes have a lot, and then other things that are different. Does anybody remember the 3 basic body parts of an insect?
Head, thorax, and abdomen.
Oh my God. Thank you.
There you go.
If you want to fill this in, this is on the back of your paper just to make it a little interactive, but you by all means don't have to. So a cool thing about them having these 3 different body parts is they can come in different proportions. That can also help you identify different critters. If you've ever seen a ladybug, you know, their head is really tiny. Their thorax is really tiny. Then they have a big round abdomen. The difference is obviously their head has all the things that a face and a brain has. The thorax is technically where all of the legs are connected and wings are connected. And then the abdomen has the reproductive parts and the digestive parts. A cool thing about them, this next line is pointing out their antenna. So which acts kind of like our nose would act. They can smell each other. They can pick up on the pheromones that your plants give off. So something that a lot of people don't know is if your plants are distressed in some way, say you went on vacation and forgot to set up somebody to come water them and it's really hot, they get all stressed out and wilty, or they're being attacked by something else, they give off pheromones and those little guys will find your sad plants. Like any good predator, they seek out the weak, right? So if it's giving off weak pheromones, it's an easy target. Those are their antennae. They don't have eyes like our eyes, they have compound eyes. So they see your garden very differently than you and I see it. They can see ultraviolet light, so they can see tracks of other animals coming and going. They can see the blossoms differently, and they're attracted to things in different ways. And they can also totally see you coming if you try to swat at them or switch them. If their eyes go up and around their whole head, imagine having eyes that take up most of your head. They see you coming and the scale, I mean, it's like you swatting them in slow motion. They're like, right? So that's why it's really hard to swat at them. And their brain is so close to their eyes, like it's a really quick connection. So they're fast. And they have 3 pairs of legs, as opposed to arachnids, which have 8 legs or 4 pairs of legs and only 2 body parts. So that's a dead giveaway. If you're trying to figure out what something is, you're like, oh, count the legs, count the legs. Don't be afraid of it. While you're counting legs, most of the things in Western Washington cannot hurt you at all. And then as adults, they get 2 pairs of wings, most of them, not all, but pretty close.
Does fertilizer help with the smell?
Help with the smell. I wouldn't think so.
No.
Especially not for me. Ooh, I can do stinky stuff. Okay, and then insects specifically will also go through these big changes. What is that big word to describe?
Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis, yes. And insects go through 2 different kinds of metamorphosis. This first one we call complete, and I think of it as they completely change from one stage to the next. And why do you care about this? Because they eat different parts of your garden in these different stages. And they can spend different amounts of time in each stage. Think about those 17-year cicadas we hear about. We don't have them here, but they always make the news every 17 years when they come out. They spend 17 years in the larval stage underground eating. They come up from their pupal stage and emerge as adults. They don't even eat as adults, and they're only alive for a couple days. It's purely to reproduce, and then they're dead. We have similar insects, but not quite 17 years long. Some will do this cycle in 1 year, and they spend all winter in your garden just hanging out in their larval or pupal stage. Then they emerge as soon as it gets warm and you plant things, and they're like, thank you very much. And then some can do this cycle several times in a year. Just they're all a little bit different. And then these guys are incomplete metamorphosis. They hatch out of their egg pretty much just like an adult, and they're called instars or nymph stages. And they change until they get to an adult, and only the adults in both stages get their wings and their reproductive parts. This is a key thing when we get to aphids. We'll come back to that. Any questions about those changes? Okay. So here's our activity. I would normally have you do this in person, but we don't have tables and we got people online, so we're gonna do it virtually. I've got a slew of these guys. So we're gonna do a quick activity. Don't feel like you need to write them down because I'm gonna give you an ID sheet here in the room in a second to have all this stuff with you. I just want to be part of the activity. So an animal's gonna pop up, and I want you to show me with your thumb, is it good for the garden or bad for the garden? Not for you, not for everyone, for the garden. And same at home, you can participate if you'd like. And then we'll show you which side it goes on. So it's gonna sort good for the garden, this is gonna be on the green left side, bad for the garden is gonna go on the right. We'll start with an easy one. Yeah, super thumbs down, right? This is an Asian slug. These are not native to Washington. They eat everything, right? They're kind of a pain. So yes, this is not so good for the garden. Have we all encountered slugs?
Yeah.
We'll spend some time on slugs in a little bit. What about this one?
He's good for the garden, isn't he?
Yeah, I'll give this kind of a thumbs middle. Most people don't encounter them around here unless you live right next to a very native woody area or the ocean. They tend to love those places. For the most part, they don't eat the things that we grow in our garden. They actually love dandelions, which is great. But most people don't distinguish between the two. They just see a slug and assume it's bad. So I'm gonna give it a middle category. Like if you know what you're doing, it's not bad for your garden. It's not really great for your garden either, but yeah. How about dragonflies? They were part of the garden world? Yeah. Great for the gardener. Does anybody know what dragonflies eat?
Skeeters.
Mosquitoes, yes. And they're in their complete metamorphosis, their larval stages, they live in the water and also eat those baby mosquitoes. So we love having them around. So if you ever see them, you know there's water nearby. And that's where they've hatched from as well. So some of the things that we can do to our gardens can run off and negatively affect those bodies of water and kill off some of our good guys. So that's why I included them. How about this one? What is this? Praying mantis. Yeah, this is good for the garden. Why? Let's see, aphids, and it can be some other things too. They're a great predator. We do have native ones. We have a lot of invasive ones too that aren't, because our summers, or I mean, our winters aren't getting as cold as they used to be. They're not dying off. So they're sticking around.
Thank you.
It's good and bad.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're good. How about this one?
Centipede, see? No.
Yeah. Do you know what it is?
Something that makes me jump when I find it.
Yeah. I'm hearing bad. Okay, so this is actually good for the garden. This is a baby. Not gonna make it big again. This is a baby beetle.
Oh.
So the larval stage of a beetle. Yep. That's actually good because it will go hunt some of the things that eat your plants.
Does it look like something that's bad for the garden?
It's this one.
Okay.
This is the adult stage of that beetle. Now, do you know what this one is? Nobody know. This is a rove beetle. I have one in a jar that's been given to me. I have a small collection of things people give me over the years we can pass around things seen in real life. It's in the blister beetle family. It can't hurt you if you touch it, but a true blister beetle will make your skin blister if you touch it. This is its defensive posture. It does this when it's trying to look tough, like, oh, leave me alone, like a skunk would raise its tail, like, don't bother me. But they eat some of the things that eat in garden, so they're great. You just see them, they don't have great wings, they're little tiny ones, they can't fly very well, so they tend to just fall around on the ground. And you can just leave those in the back of the room and I'll get them from you later. Thank you. So in both stages, they're great for the garden.
Call that a good one, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
Great for the garden, not so great for the gardener, right? Because they can sting and bite. One of the great things about them is they like to hunt some of the things that eat your plants and go feed them to their children. They'll fling them back to the nest and feed them to the larvae in the nest. And they also pollinate at the same time. So they are great to have around. This one, you may know what that is.
Anything that looks like that feels bad. I don't know.
You may have seen its cousin in like a pet store. They feed them to lizards and birds.
Oh. Mealworm.
Yeah, it's a cousin of the mealworm.
Oh,
This is called wireworm. Ours around here are actually really small. This lower one.
it's a tiny.
Change. Yeah. I'll tell you the story about that later. But yeah, if you saw it, you'd go, ew. But it's actually really okay for the garden. It's not bad. It's not, well, I take that back. They don't know much about the adult stage, what it eats.
Oh, back here.
This is one of the few native plants or native animals to Washington.
Yeah.
Its adult phase is called a click beetle.
Oh, sure.
Which is the other one in there. And you can see on their thorax, those points, when it bends back, it clicks, and that's how it jumps. And it just gets it out of harm's way. It can jump about a foot that way.
Yeah, you hear them, right?
You can, a little bit, yeah. You got good hearing. I don't. The adults, they don't really know what they eat, but the larval stages, they do find them eating some root vegetables. So that's a tricky one. Not so great, at least in the larval stage, and we're not sure, but they're going to have babies that are going to eat your plants in the ground. So not great. How about this one?
Millipede.
It is a millipede.
And I've never seen one with.
That's a millipede.
I've got a mixed reaction.
Yeah.
Millipedes, this is a native millipede. There's also a light brown millipede that curls up and often looks like a snail in your garden. Millipedes are decomposers. So they can only eat rotting plant matter. Their jaws are so weak they literally can't bite you. So in nut yards, they're great for the garden because they're going to help decompose some of those dead leaves and stuff back into the soil. That's a good thing. How about this one? So cute though.
Yeah.
Yes, this is bad for the garden. This little guy turns into this.
Oh.
Which you go, oh, pretty butterfly in my garden. Yay.
That's not so.
I tend to shoo these guys off because I'm like, don't lay eggs. Thank you for pollinating, but you're gonna lay eggs and your children are gonna eat my plants. Yeah.
What are they called?
This is called a cabbage worm. I don't have the worm because bugs are funny. As soon as you put them in a jar or something, they're like, oh, I'm gonna die, and they quickly pupate and morph and then go to their adult stage, hoping they can reproduce before they die. So every time I stuck one in a jar, boom, I get a chrysalis, and then I get the adult, like, dang. So if you've ever seen these yellowish butterflies flying around, they have little black dots on the inside of their wings. They're almost whitish.
Is that the one they put the little traps for on the trees?
Yeah, it's a decoy kind of a thing. Yeah.
Oh.
Turns out they're territorial. So you can make little paper ones and just stick them in your garden. And they apparently, I haven't tried it myself, but I've heard that works.
Great.
How about this one?
Never seen that one.
Anybody know what it is? No. We don't often see them in this stage. This is a larval stage of a lacewing. So this is a good guy. Everybody knows what lacewings are?
Yeah.
Distinguished by their wings going far beyond their abdomen. Not a lot of bugs do that. We have brown ones and we have green ones. Green ones are more popular. And the green ones we know eat what? Aphids. They're just like ladybugs. They're tremendous. And just like any good teenager, their larval stage will eat a lot.
So different colored ones, different colors, the infant ones, are they different, like the one that
Kind of this brownish,
they're all,
reddish.
no matter what the actual.
Yeah.
I just never seen it. Oh, I see those, but I never see those.
Me either. Yeah. I don't know why. They must not spend too much time in the larval stage. I see them as adults. Way
Yeah.
out. Okay, so those are good for the garden. How about this one?
Oh, earwigs.
Earwigs, yeah.
Everybody's favorite? Any good or bad?
That's a good question. Are they?
I'm a little indifferent. I put them in the middle.
Yeah.
When they take over, which they can do,
Yeah.
if you've got like a bed made out of wood and the wood is rotting, they're gonna be attracted to that rotting wood and then they'll start to eat your plants too.
Okay.
They love little places where they can hide. So if you're growing corn, they love to get into those ears of corn. I don't think that's where they get their name, but I don't know about the ear thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for the most part, they don't attack
Yeah, they don't pinch you.
and they don't really pinch you.
Yeah.
No, no,
Look,
no.
crawl in your ear though. I will.
It will.
Yeah, my grandpa's.
My brother's
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're a pest if there's a lot of them. Otherwise, a few of them, it's fine. They're creepy, but they're not gonna hurt your plants too much. I get asked about ants all the time. What do you think?
Man, they're bad. I
Eat
think
things.
different kinds of them.
Yeah.
Different kinds of ants. Again, I'm gonna kind of put these in the middle. For the most part, they don't eat plants. If there's aphids, the aphids are eating, they tend to go for like fruits. They will harvest the dew off the aphids and protect the aphids. So that's annoying. They're protecting the things eating your plants. If they're fire ants, really hard on the gardener. Right? For the most part, ants churn the soil and can distribute nutrition around the soil. So they're kind of good that way. So they're not bad. Yeah, hard to get a picture of these guys. Anybody know what it is?
Grub.
It is a grub, another name for it would be a larva.
Everything's bad.
Everything's bad. It's bad. And this one happens to be a cutworm.
That's right.
And they turn into these guys over winter. How many of you seen these chrysalises in your garden? Yes. They spend all winter in their pupal stage. And then when you go to turn your garden over and plant things in the early spring, you might come across them. And creepy because they wiggle, which most chrysalises don't. When I had a plot in a community garden, I had a big piece of grass that kept trying to grow. I'm like, no, no. So I had to finally brought in a piece of plywood to choke it out. And whenever I find these guys, I just throw them on the board and I befriended all the crows.
There you go.
Out in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they will, if you toss them like on the ground, they will kind of wiggle their way back in. If you've got chickens, it's chicken food. So befriend a crow. I kept getting presents from the crows on that board after that, so. And they just turn into an ugly brown moth that doesn't fly very well. That's kind of its dead giveaway. You gotta rustle through the grass of your garden and this little moth goes, pooh, pooh. That's that guy, but it looks like every other brown moth. How about this kitty? Oh, sometimes they inch long. We call them inchworms.
Inchworm.
They eat the leaves.
They can't eat the leaves, yes. And the, what is this one called? Look at the cabbage worm. It's the cabbage looper. So it looks a lot like the other one, except up close, they look a little
And what
different.
did you say the grub turns into?
Moth.
A moth.
Cutworm. Which one is not a worm, right? That one, great. That word gets tossed around a lot. So not
See,
great.
that one's called a cutworm.
The chili was cutworm. This is a cabbage looper.
That's
Yeah, it turns into another brown moth. They all look the same. So I put pictures in here. How about this one? So cute.
Baby ladybug.
It's a baby ladybug. So it goes in which column? They're good, yes, because they eat ladybugs, eat all the aphids, especially as good teenagers. They eat a ton and turn into that. Yes.
Is that the native? I understand there are two kinds of ladybugs, the native, which have the yellow, and the,
Asian.
Things, yeah, the Japanese.
It is really hard to tell them apart. The easiest way I have found is that our native bugs see how squatty their little head and their thorax are. The Asian lady beetles, those are much longer. I've seen them, go after dogs and they bite onto their mouth and they bite.
They have an M.
Yeah,
The M.
we had an infestation of them at the library and they have a little M up in the black of their head. That's kind of white.
Hmm.
And they're a little bit more orange than the native ones. The native ones are more of dark red.
Yeah. But there's a lot of different kinds of ladybugs. Of the native ones too, and the other ones that have been introduced. But the bad ones that bite do look a little bit different.
I think they still eat aphids. Though.
I do think they still eat aphids, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna check for us. I think they do.
Sure, I don't know what else they would eat. Ladybugs in general are carnivores. So.
Yes, they still eat the aphids.
Thank you for checking, Katie. All right, this is a general spider picture for the garden, good or bad?
General spiders are good. Yeah.
They eat insects.
So notice there's no web. So a true garden spider doesn't build a web. They crawl around and they're what we call ambush hunters. They go find prey. I love those the best.
I do too.
Because the web ones, I don't know about you, but every time I look in that web, there's a pollinator in there.
Yeah.
So I tend to break their webs down. I'll just go grab them with my glove on and go like, you could be in this corner, but not over here. So they are good because they don't eat plants,
I like
right?
the little guys, like they're not fuzzy.
Little
but
jumpers.
So cute.
So cute. So cute. Okay, so here we've kind of the end of our little activity here, and we've got all the good guys lined up next to all the bad guys and kind of our middle range. Do you notice a theme with the characteristics of each group?
Squishier on that side.
Legs good, or yeah, legs
Yeah, legs are
good.
good.
Yes. Yes. For the most part.
Yeah.
And this is how nature works. There's no black and white. There's always some gray area. So the animals on the right tend to be squishier, slower, and camouflaged with either the soil or the plant themselves. The ones on the left tend to be a little bit scarier looking. And that's because they're predators. They are built to hunt. These guys on the right that can't hunt, they're just going to camouflage. They're just going to try to blend in. They can't get away. They don't have to hunt down a plant. They're not built for that. The plant's not moving, so they're going to just sit around and eat plants all day. So the ones that people tend to think are scary, icky, bad for the garden are actually the ones that are good for the garden because they've got equipment to take those guys out.
You said that the wasps go after the predators and stuff, but what about the honeybees? Are they just pollinators or do they go after anything else?
Not that I'm aware of, they don't do that. But yeah, the wasps will go after, I've seen them carrying these. I had a gosh, what are they called? Potter's wasp, where they make one little cute, it looks like a little Anasazi pot. And they drop one egg in and they drop in a couple of these guys. They've paralyzed them, they're still alive. They can't move. They drop them in there and then they seal the pot. And it's just a little thing and they stick on the underside of things. And as the egg matures, it has something to eat by the time it's ready to hatch. So yeah, I have a lot of different wasps and they all feed their children, these squishy guys.
What about the bald-faced wasp?
They do the same thing, yeah. They are aggressive towards the gardener. Right. Yes. Another thing to keep in mind with those cool antennas that they pick up your pheromones as well. And this is something I've taught to kids this my whole career. Is we're gonna go out in the garden, but if you see a bee, if you act all scared and nervous, they're gonna pick up on that and they're gonna think you're attacking them in their nest. Just like if you come up to a dog and you're kind of anxious, they're gonna pick up on that and go, ooh. But if you approach them with like admiration and some calm energy, like they totally pick up on that and they're like, ah, you're fine. I won't pay any attention to you. So amazing.
Beekeeper here, and it's so true.
Yeah, nice. Yes,
Yeah. Just, hi ladies, how's the day going?
yeah.
That's what I've told my kids. They don't get stung, but the neighbor kids do.
Well, if you run over the hornet's nest with the
Oh, gosh.
lawn
Yeah, that's bad.
yeah, that's bad vibes.
I'll pass that on, generation to generation.
Okay, so now I have a guide for you both to use with your notes. All right, what do you have? What I've done here. And me and some other garden folks went through all of these really great books and pulled out the ones that actually happen here. As it's such a unique bioregion, a lot of things in these awesome books cover the entire continent, and then it just makes it more confusing.
Yeah.
So we pulled them out and I made this guide for you all. Then we're gonna go through them piece by piece on the slides as well. So you see I set it up so that each a couple handouts, there's one more on the corner, and this is what we're talking about right now. They're in alphabetical order by common name that you and I would call them. There's information about their class order and their family, FYI. And then a basic description, some of the best vectors I could find, not certainly everything out there. Some of the things that they're found on or that they eat. And then their remedies and preventions are listed at the bottom. So we're starting with aphid, and notice it's not aphid, it's aphids. You never see one, right? So these are colony animals. They tend to be the color of their host plant, but not always. And they feed by a piercing mouth part. They don't have chewing, they have a piercing mouth part. They stick into the softest part of the plant they can find, and then they withdraw the fluids. And they tend to hide, you know, they're not a good predator, so they are just gonna hide underneath a leaf, usually, and you'll see that leaf start to curl under, like that. You see that happening to plant, don't get away, turn that leaf over, and oh, hey, everybody. The cool thing about these is because that colony is mostly young nymphs in that metamorphic stage. Only a couple of them are adults with wings. And the best thing, if you find them to get rid of them, squish them with my gardening gloves. If you're not comfortable squishing them, insecticidal soap is super beneficial. There's a recipe for it in your notes handout. All it is, soapy water.
I was gonna say, there's a question that says, can we use dish soap?
You can totally use dish soap. My caveat is that you use a plant-based soap with the least amount of additives to it. The color additives, the fragrance, all those other things might harm your soil or your plant. I'm a big fan of Castile soaps. And Dr. Bronner's, no, they're not paying me to say this, but I've tried a lot of Castile soaps and this is the most natural one. And the bugs hate peppermint.
Right.
So the peppermint Castile soap, this little bottle will last you a really long time. It has a lot of uses. And it's only like $12, $13 at like Fred Meyer. You can get
bigger ratio.
the recipes in
Oh, you have the recipe.
your notes. It's basically just a little bit to a bottle of water and you just make your own spray. You can buy insecticidal soap, but it is just soapy water. Yeah. Find a spray bottle that you're not using. I keep one in my garage full of soapy water at all times. Take out these guys. So what it is though, is the lipids, fatties, acids in the soap break down their exoskeleton. Their exoskeleton's made of chitin, which is sort of like fingernails, but especially on aphids because it's so thin, that exoskeleton. That soap gets on there and they die pretty quick.
I'm melting.
Yeah, melting is bad. So like Okay, this isn't a vegetable, but I had a baby blue spruce plant that was turning green, not from blue. I was like, what? And it was in a pot. I was like, why do you look funny? And then I got in there and I just stared at it for a while and I eventually saw the movie up and down the stem. So there's apparently an aphid that goes after spruce saplings. So I took it out in the alley and I got a big bottle or two going and I just sprayed the heck out of the whole baby tree. It's maybe yay big in a pot. I doused every needle I could in the whole center. And I only had to do it one time. They were gone out. Yeah. If you don't have soapy water, don't want to kill them, you can blast them off with a hose. And it will take a long time for them to crawl back. They'll get picked off by the birds or some other predators. Maybe the adults with the wings will fly back, but that's a really non-toxic way to get them off your plants. And the prevention of these things, if you know this is going to happen, you're planting things that are prone to getting aphids, which is a lot of stuff, especially when they're young plants and they're soft so they can eat them easily, is to do row covers. Does everybody know what row covers are? Getting some yes and some no's. I can't remember my next slide has got row covers. Yes.
Oh.
It's a Google search, just a screenshot to show row covers. So the idea is you plant or transplant whatever you're planting in the ground, and then you immediately cover it with this row cover. Then you bury the ends or anchor them down in a way that the bugs, the mama aphid can't get in there and lay her eggs.
We have a Zoom question asking what your thoughts are on neem oil for aphids.
Neem oil, I haven't personally used it. It can be really strong. It's a citric-based solution. It has instructions to use on different applications. I've heard great things. It's a little bit pricey. It can kill other things.
It's best probably for trees as a pre-emergence and stuff like that.
Yeah. Y'all hear that? It's good for trees.
We've got a question.
Oh, yeah.
I've also heard that ladybugs will kill aphids,
Yes.
and you can buy them at a lot of.
Yes. Thank you for cueing me to grab that. So you can also buy aphids or buy ladybugs and or lacewings to go after your aphid problem. The tricky thing with that is they tend to not be our native species. They take them from the wild and put them in these containers. And like I mentioned before, as soon as you put the bug in a container, it wants to morph really fast. So if you go to the store and you buy these or you have them shipped to your house, it tends to come in like wood chips and it's all wet and they're crawling around there. They try to tell you if you release them at night, they'll stick around. If there's no aphids and they don't find them right away, they're out of there.
Go on.
And the odds of you getting the young ones in here are really slim because they morph so fast when they're put in a container. So they do work. Well, just be careful with these. I think prevention is key. If you know it's going to happen, get those row covers in there. Row covers are great because they'll keep everything out. Anything else that's going to come to your plant, they're going to keep it out. It helps if you lay a drip hose or drip line in there so you don't have to keep peeling it back to water. They are permeable, so they let some rain through, they let sunlight through. They're pretty great. I stick them on my raised beds until my plants are established and then I pull them off.
And you just put a dripper hose on?
I think it's all, okay, blast with a hose, encourage beneficial insects. And you do that by creating an environment where they want to hang out. So have some other plants nearby that they can eat or get pollen from for like the, even the wasps will eat them. They may not carry them back, they'll eat them on the spot. And insects also. So those are the basic things. We're going to keep seeing some of this over and over for the rest of them. I'm gonna keep going here. So there's a row cover. Oh, this is in your handout in front of you at home. 1 tablespoon per quart is about what you need. Cabbage maggot is next on our list. I don't hear people encountering these a lot, but they do happen. As you can see up at the top, we've got it under the order Diptera, and Dipteras are all flies. So maggot is such a gross word, right? But what is it really? it's a larva, right? So in the larval stage, they eat these plants loose from the ground. So a mama fly comes along, lays her egg, they hatch, and they start eating this plant right at the roots. Super weird. They love cabbage, arugulas, radishes, turnips, things that are bulky right there at the bottom, but they'll go after other things. Row covers, plant polycultures is another way to say kind of encourage beneficial, so planting a variety of things around your garden to help encourage other things to come prey on these guys and prey on mama before she gets there. Yeah. Another thing it mentions is rotating crops. Do you know you're supposed to rotate your crops? Good. Oh, everybody knows that. You don't look it up. Basically, if you're planting things that are leafy, and you're planting things that you're gonna eat the root, and you're planting things you're gonna eat the fruiting bodies off of, like tomatoes and gourds and pumpkins. You mix those things around. You don't grow them in the same spot year after year. They pull the same nutrients out of the soil and deplete the soil of those same nutrients. And bugs like remember where they got their meal and they pass that on in their DNA to their children. And the next generation comes on and like, oh, Patty's house over there in the back corner. They're gonna find some sunflowers and they're gonna be great. They just know. So by moving them around, it helps confuse the bugs and it mixes up your soil nutrient content.
And they're probably laying dormant, just waiting.
And they'll hang out and wait too, yeah.
That beneficial nematodes up there on your
Yes.
table.
Yes. So beneficial nematodes can help. Has anybody had to use these before?
I love them.
They are.
They are my friend.
Yeah, your friend. So these are so weird. So again, you find these in the garden center where you can find like fishing worms and ladybugs and things. Inside comes a little container that looks like wet vermiculite. They are microscopic organisms. I did not get my microscope out to make sure they were in there. I trusted they were in there. And I had to use these on another critter we're gonna get to in a minute, but the package comes with all kinds of instructions depending on your problem, how big of an area you're trying to treat, and what you're treating. But they basically are used to go for things in the soil. So these guys are down in the soil. You water them in. So you dilute that mixture and you water them in, however the directions tell you. And they go after those.
One treatment can last years.
Yeah.
So keep,
Yeah. As long as they don't dry out, you're good to go.
and they won't eat the radishes and stuff.
Right. They don't eat plants.
They're not.
They love slugs.
Yeah. There's bad nematodes out there that can eat certain plants and things. But these are called beneficial nematodes because they go after the pests in your garden. Yeah, they're pretty cool.
I've heard they also kill off earthworms though.
They can. Yeah, I mean, anything's possible, right? If whatever you're treating, it's usually not specific to that one thing. It can get everybody and everything. So only use if you have to. Sure. Okay, next critter on our list is the cabbage moth or cabbage looper. That's that little inchworm guy we talked about earlier. They're so cute. But it turns out they just love to eat your leafy plants. And in the daytime, when you go out there and you see these holes, you're like, what is eating my plants? They are slick. You almost can't see them. I have another picture. There we go. Both them and the cabbage worm will line up with the veins of the leaf in the daytime. They don't eat during the daytime. They're not dumb. They want to hide. They're usually on the underside of the leaf. This guy was brazen. You can see on the right, just right there. You see the droppings, something's eating and pooping at the same time. So they tend to line up with the veins. You really got to look for them. And I just pick them off. Again, if you've got crows or chickens, feed them to them or squish them, use your garden shears or something on them to get them to go away. But if you see those adults, these is that poor flying brown moth. I see them in the lawn and I'm like, oh, squish, oh, sorry guys. I don't want your babies eating my garden. They mostly go on cabbages and lettuce and artichokes and really fluffy things. And sanitize is one we haven't talked about yet. That's a recommendation. So all these books listed the same things over and over. Sanitize and weed is kind of the same thing. To go in there, pull the weeds out and any dead leaves that are around your plants. Some people think that, oh, I wanted this to be really natural and I'll let the leaves fall down and they're going to go back into the soil. Well, our vegetable gardens aren't quite built like that unless you've got a real permaculture setup going. Those little dead leaves can make hidey places for the bad guys. So sanitize means just to get that stuff out of there, really clean up your garden of all the dead things, and get rid of those hiding places, especially for the adult. That's where they're gonna hang out.
You should get that out before winter. Just if it falls, get it out. Get it out there.
Clean it out. This one I actually found pictures of their eggs. So similar to ladybug eggs, you've never seen them. I think they're about the same color and shape. So be careful what the eggs are. Don't just go squishing everything because they do look like them. And these guys are similar to the last one. Their adults look different. So that's that little butterfly flying around. And I do hear those decoys work to ward them off. Never tried it myself. Our next one is the carrot rust fly. This one happens and you have no idea until you go to pull those carrots up. So it looks like any other fly, really. But you know, the tops of the carrot, when they stick out of the ground, Mama carrot rust fly comes along. She's like, oh, perfect. Boop, lays her eggs. Goes on the next one. Boop, lays her eggs. And those eggs hatch, and because she's a Diptera, she's a true fly, her maggot goes into the carrot and just eats its way, eating and pooping. That's what the dark parts are. And you have no idea until you pull it up. You grew it all summer long. You chump. And you pull it up, you're like, oh, what? Yeah, carrot rust fly. You can cut around it for the most part, unless they just really gone.
Yeah.
So
Pull it up halfway through the cycle and see if it's infested them and then make one mosquito.
yes, it does pay to pull them up every once in a while and go, is anything happening here? If you know you're prone to it, I found in my community garden, it happened the worst there for whatever reason. So this book, I can't find the page right now, but in this book, Less of the Pest Disease, that's why I grabbed wrong book. These DK books, I love them so much. Has this picture to illustrate, especially if you're gardening in the ground. Turns out Mama carrot rust fly can only fly about 2 feet off the ground. So if you've got a raised bed or you just put up some netting, she can't get over it, can't lay eggs in any carrots. When I put in my raised beds at my house, I got the galvanized steel ones, planning for my future and not wanting to get down on the ground anymore, but also going, okay, carrot rust fly can't get that high. Perfect. So if you've got anything burrowing through your carrots, that's probably what it is. I already talked about this guy, or cutworm. These guys look like a lot of other things, like crane fly larvae and whatnot. They're just a big fat grub. They're kind of see-through, so they tend to blend in with whatever soil they're on. They can't dig, so they're not going to be down in the soil, and they can't climb, so they're not going to climb up. They're right at the surface. And they get their name because they just chew the plant off right where it meets the ground. They don't keep chewing, they just move on to the next one.
Yeah.
The lumberjacks. Like, oh, so frustrating. And then in the winter, you see them pupate like this. And then in the warmer months, they hatch and they come out as this moth. Granted, the moth isn't going to chew up your plants, not harming anything, but it will lay eggs. And these guys will come eat vermin. They like a lot of things. Prevention is best because they're nocturnal. Octuidae is the nocturnal form of the butterflies, right? You're not going to see them unless you're out gardening at night. So having those row covers are really going to help keep them away. Cutworm collars, I love this one. If you're prone to it and you're patient, basically just taking a paper towel tube or toilet paper tube and cutting it and putting them around. They love to go after baby stalks of corn. They just chop them down. They're like that tall, like, ooh. And you just put that around, just shove it into the soil a little bit. They can't climb it. They can't get under it, so it keeps them off. Anyway, so if they are a problem, row covers are great. Traps and diatomaceous earth. Traps, this is such a great one. You kind of bait them out. So they love little foldy hidey places. If you take a piece of corrugated cardboard, soak it for a few minutes, roll it up, put a rubber band around it, tie it up, looks like a log, and stick it where they're a problem for you. Overnight, they will flock into those little curves of the cardboard and hang out, and then you've got this thing the next day because they are nocturnal. They're full of them. What you do with that is up to you. If you want to befriend your neighbor with chickens, take it down or you're taking it off to the end of the street.
So you just said water?
Yeah, just soak it in water because it makes it pliable and wet. And they love just wet, foldy, hidey places.
I tend to go with the nuclear option of burning them.
There's that, put them on the fire. And then diatomaceous earth also works. Have y'all heard of diatomaceous earth? DE for short. It's just fossilized single cell organisms. Looks like chalk in a powder form. I tend to put it in one of those like powdered sugar shakers. Because you want to get it underneath and over all the leaves can help. And that just basically gets into their little exoskeleton joints and parts. It dries them out. It's like being cut with 1,000 knives. And it's a way to deal with them. But make sure you don't breathe it in and use gloves and things with that stuff. Flea beetles. Anybody have a problem with these? I see lucky people. These are a pain if you get them. So this is what I had to get beneficial nematodes for. They showed up in my garden one year. I had 2 rows of potatoes going, maybe like 10 feet long. And I noticed all these little teeny holes in all the leaves. So that is telltale sign of flea beetles. The adults are on the left, they're a little tiny beetle, a little bit bigger than a flea, but they jump like a flea. That's where they get their name. So they're on top poking holes in your plant. Well, they've laid their eggs and their children are down there eating your potatoes or other things that grow in the ground. Yeah, not too bad for the top of the plant, but they destroy the potato kind of like the carrot rust fly. They just kind of eat through and go and make a mess. So I had to treat the ones in the soil. I used the beneficial nematodes. A good tip if you're going to add them to water, like I added them to a bucket of water. Our water has fluorine in it, most of us. So about 15 minutes per gallon, if you just let it sit out in a bucket, right? A 5-gallon bucket. So I let it sit out for an hour and a half or 2. The fluorine evaporates off because the fluorine will kill the nematodes. That's what it's supposed to do, right? Kill stuff. So just let it air off gases. And then I added, I don't know, I think it was 1/3 of the container to the bucket. It's a few years ago. I don't remember. Follow the directions. And then I just dumped it real close to the base of the plants and got my 2 rows saturated, watered it in real good. And then I used the diatomaceous earth and got the tops to get the parents from making their children. And had to do that a couple times and then they finally went away. What a pain. But there's nothing else that does that damage and there's nothing else that looks like that. And you can go along and squish them. You can squish them better than a flea, FYI. But they see you coming, they're like, pew, I'm out of here. Pew.
I see the holes, but I don't see the bugs. There are a lot of other bugs that eat the leaves like that. They must be the ones
I
that,
would stand there and wait and look.
see the
Hold there for a minute. They'll probably pop out. Trying to think if there's anything else that does that. Not that I know of. There's a diatomaceous earth. Next one I have here is our leaf miner. How many have encountered leaf miners? All of you? Yeah, these are weird. This is another weird one. So it is technically a fly. So mama fly comes around. She really likes big leafy stuff. Artichoke, beets, lettuces, spinach. And she lays 1 egg per leaf. Goes on. There's another. The egg hatches in this little maggoty guy. Gets into the leaf, in between the layers, and eats all the green stuff. So fresh damage, you just see the clear. Like, why is my leaf clear? And after a day or so, it turns brown, and it dies and it sticks together. So if you see either of those, you can pick that leaf off, hold it up to the sun, and usually see that little guy there wiggling around. It's inside the leaf. They've mined their way in, right? But it's also really easy to just pick that leaf off, and like, you're inside, and you should stuff them in a bag, like, okay. And that will usually eliminate the problem. You find all the ones that they've hatched, pull them out. Either put that bag in the garbage, feed them to your chickens, something else, but don't put them in the compost bin. You don't want them to eventually hatch, right? Road covers to prevent that fly from getting in there in the first place helps. Fighting polyculture, so other things will prey on the mom and the babies. Get your weeds out of there. Great solutions and preventions. Oh, our favorite. Okay, slugs. So I've kind of just lumped them all together because I think most people just lump them all together. But just remember, they're not all bad. But the dark brown ones, sometimes they have an orange edge on them, will eat your garden until you don't let them. It was hard to find a good picture of their eggs. Most of them are clear. Some of them are kind of a whitish color. They are perfectly round and wet, and there's a clump of them. There's nothing else that does that. Snails and slugs have the same looking eggs. One of the reasons I don't love to put mulch or wood chips around my garden bed is so that's where they love to hide and lay their eggs. There's several things you can do. One of my best examples is when I had a different community garden plot. I was in a corner. The garden was in a park. And it was a great plot when I got it. And then a couple years later, the park said, we're getting too much water over here. We're going to build this ditch right along this side of the garden, which was half of my garden plot. I have no control of this. There's a fence. Slugs don't care about fences, right? Remarkably. So this ditch became just slug haven. And at night, they would just come through the fence, devour my garden. In the daytime, they would go back. Like, so what I did was along the fence, I planted garlic and onions. Sacrificial garden right there. I wasn't going to eat these. I didn't care if other things were eating them, but they really do keep the slugs away. They don't like the smell of garlic and onions. That, for the most part, worked. And then gardening in broad daylight, I would see the big, huge, fat ones. Broad daylight come out and come. I'm like, whoa, you are brave. And they would muscle past the stinky plants. So that's when I resorted to the beer trap. Yes, you can hand pick them, slice them up with your garden shears, feed them to your chickens, all the things, right? Other things that work are beer traps. The idea is to fill the beer up to the bottom of these holes that you cut into the bottom of this plastic container or the top of the plastic container. I think they really like IPA. I bought the cheapest 6-pack of IPAs I could find. Kept it in the trunk of my car, which was weird because I'm in a park now and I'm like cracking open a beer like it's really so there's these slug-sized holes towards the top of the container. Can everybody see that? And you fill it up to the bottom. Some people bury it after the holes. They just go in. They're like, beer? I love some. Happy hour, bring it on. And I put your pictures on there. I can't remember if I finally added them. I did. Oh, this is my picture of this. And I have another one. Broad daylight, this big, huge slug went right in. Like, yeah, let's go.
Any other suggestions besides beer?
So,
Is it just like
Something about the malty, some
yeah.
It's the yeasty smell.
yeasties, they love, and they'll drown themselves for it. Like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. And then once it's full, it's up to you. Sometimes it's really cool, gross and slimy, and you just chuck it and start over. Some people are brave and they'll go dump it somewhere and start over. Your call. What I also found was they always go for the baby plants first, right? So I started them at home and then bring them to the garden if they were big enough to kind of fend for themselves. That was great until I was growing them on my deck. Slugs from under my deck were coming up, eating my gosh. So I was like, oh my god, these slugs are killing me.
Do green onions detour them also?
Mhm. The bigger and stinkier the better.
Okay.
Copper tape. Y'all heard the thing about copper tape? Yes. Copper. Right, so the idea is when they try to cross the copper, because of their big flat suctioning stomachs, it somehow creates an electrical charge, and they don't like that. And they won't cross it. So what I ended up doing was putting all my baby plants on a table, and I put copper tape just around the bottoms of the legs.
Oh.
And that kept him off. I had a garden neighbor that was trying to grow asparagus in a pot. Slugs love asparagus, really hard to get them to not eat your whole plant. So she had to grow it in a pot. She just put a big strip around the middle of the pot. It looked really decorative, didn't even realize it was to keep the slugs away. So it's worth the investment if you have those kinds of problems, like trying to line your whole raised bed. Probably not going to work because it does oxidize after a couple of years and you have to replace it. They're not making pennies anymore, so can't really use that. But there's not a lot of copper in pennies anyway, so if anything, it's not great. But the copper does work for that reason. Eggshells, man, you gotta keep replacing the eggshells and they break down pretty quickly and you got a really thick supply. I know that's a common one too. It can work, but usually just for a couple of days.
I've seen people on YouTube who were so disgusted with their slugs, they electrified those wires.
Wow, well,
As soon as it touched the top wire, which was the hot button.
wow. I can imagine what else you're gonna get in that kind of a situation, but
Rice. Oh.
yeah.
I don't know whether that's better than being eaten alive by the nematodes or not.
I don't know, man. Any other things work for folks for slugs? Salt, yes. So fun to send. That was my favorite thing my grandma did for me. Is here's the salt shaker, go out and garden. Loved it. Be careful though, you can change the salinity of your soil if they get carried away. Plants don't like salty soil.
Your neighbor's duck.
Oh.
Yes, get those chickens over here. Yeah, ducks and chickens love them. Any other questions about slugs? Anything else in the chat?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay, I know it was a lot of information. I'm trying to go really fast because there's so much to cover. Spit bugs. Y'all seen these?
Yes,
Yes.
and now I know what it is.
Spit bugs, spittle bugs, they have lots of names. They're usually not that bad, but they love corn. They love that branch part of a plant. These also have a pointy, piercing mouth part, so they're sucking the fluids out of the plant. But they create the spittle, they kick it out the back end and foam it up with their back legs, and then they hide in the spittle. And there's usually 1 or 2 or 3 in the spittle. They're pretty soft bodied. The exoskeleton is very, very thin, kind of like an aphid. And that's one that will kind of cross over from your native landscape into your garden. So if you live near a really grassy area like tall grass, they love that tall grass. Great, have at it. But if you're starting to grow corn or something else with those little blades in the hiding place, they will migrate over to your garden. Blasting it with the hose is remarkably effective. I have them on something and I just blast them off, water down their spittle real good. They're much more susceptible to predation from other things, so you just expose them. And it's easy to go in and squish them if they somehow hung on. This gardening gloves, I was like, sorry, dude. I played peekaboo with one for a good 20 minutes one day because it saw me coming in and its eyes were on either side of the branch. And I'm like, buddy, I don't want to squish you, I want to suppose you off. And he's like, nope, nope.
Right.
Sorry, you can't be here, you're eating everything. Hand remove, blast with a hose, and again, the insecticidal soap will get them too if they're a big problem. Usually just a couple here and there is fine. And our last one we're going to cover in depth is the wire worm. So I passed that guy around earlier. Turns into our click beetle. This is a native bug, beetle, and for the most part, beetles are great. Most beetles are predators, and they're going to go after this thing's eating your plants. But in this case, as with nature, there's always something that has to be different and break the rules. And this one was a problem mainly because if you're converting grassy areas to a garden, you might get these guys. They could be in there eating the grass. You don't really notice your grass is sad. And then you tear it up, put a garden in, then you're gonna see the flowers. So this happened with a colleague of mine. That's who gave me the sample. What she had done is torn up her parking strip. She's like, I'm gonna do a good thing, get rid of this useless grass. I'm gonna plant a garden. So she ripped the grass up and planted potatoes all in one season. So she is watering the plants diligently. The potatoes look great. Potato plants are healthy. Goes to harvest them in the fall. Oh, all through the potato, and pooped, and it's like, smell. She sends it to me, like, what is this thing? She found one in the potato. And I was like, oh, that's so tiny. Because the ones you see in the pet store, huge. It is really just about a ½ inch long. And they like those chunky plant parts growing in the ground. So, gave her all my suggestions. She came up with a brilliant idea. Then when she put her garden to bed, which I highly recommend, if you don't know how to put your garden to bed, research it. But you basically clear everything out, feed it real well. You can do lasagna layering, add some stuff. And over the winter, that's all going to break down and be ready for spring. But if you leave any parts of plants, that's just a hiding place for them to hang out. So she put her garden to bed, but she also laid some bait. She took sacrificial potatoes, put them every like 5 feet, covered them up with her lasagna layering. And then once a month throughout the winter, she'd go pull that potato out full of these guys. Garbage, wherever, tied it off, with a patch. Put a new potato out, covered up. And then by the time spring came around, the potatoes had nothing in them. So, yay for that. No chemicals needed. But they do like grassy areas, so they're near your garden is near grassy areas. No, that could be a problem. The adults will go for the chickens will go for adults. If you've got an area you're going to convert, have those chickens come in, eat up those little guys because they'll spring as the chickens are walking and they can catch them easier. Hand removal is great. Row covers prevent them from getting in there, and then beneficial nematodes because they're in the soil can also be helpful.
Back on this page with the slugs, 4 pictures of the slugs, on this first one that has the eggs, there is that, I don't see a name on him. Is he a Asian slug or is he?
The dark brown ones are the ones we really don't want. Yes.
What about the Pacific banana slug? I see
Slugs
those.
are fine, but most people are going to distinguish between the two and just harm them all. But my thinking is just if you try to keep them from getting into your gardens, period, whether it's the onions and the garlic or the row covers, then you won't have to deal with trying to pick and choose who lives. I don't think the banana slugs love beer traps either.
You don't see as many of them as you used to see now.
If you want horse preserve, you go to horse preserve in the.
Oh, Longworth Wildlife Preserve. Yeah, more woodsy, native woods areas are gonna have them swampy. Okay, I have a big section, at least in the handout, to cover the beneficial insects, just to give you an idea of those. We're not gonna go over them in great depth in the class here. But just know they're here and we can get this sheet to everybody. Just to give you a quick idea of, oh, this is what that is. It's a good guy. So I got pictures of the lacewings and the baby ladybugs and things like that. So you can look through that on your own. I have a couple of last minute things to cover. If you are having problems, the standard for agriculture is integrated pest management. You're not sure where to start. The first step is prevention. If you have a problem, you know you're going to get a problem. Your neighbor's gardening and has a problem, it's probably going to come into your garden too. Prevention is key. Get those row covers in there. You can plant resistant cultivars. It'll say on a seed packet. And then if you've done that and you still have a problem, physical removal is the next best thing for the garden and the environment and everything else. That's like physically removing the slugs or the cabbage loopers or whatever. If you're doing that, and you're still having a problem, moving on to something organic or non-toxic remedy is the next step, like your traps of a non-toxic remedy that can help. And if you're doing that and that doesn't work and you're comfortable, you can move on to steps 4 and 5. Maybe a little bit toxic, but more natural chemicals. And for that one, I would equate Sluggo. Y'all heard of Sluggo?
No.
Okay, there are 2 kinds of Sluggo in the world. I don't have my container with me, but plain old regular Sluggo would be considered toxic but natural chemicals. It is safe to use for organic gardening, believe it or not. It only works on slugs and snails. But it's super effective. It's also water soluble, which kind of tells you it's not that toxic. So after you've watered everything, you can go sprinkle their little pellets along your garden and the slugs eat it. And it's like a slug bait. But true slug bait is very toxic stuff. It kills everything. And then there's Sluggo Plus. Sounds better, right? It's plus. Well, the Sluggo Plus is very toxic. It is not safe for aquatic environments. It's not pet safe. It's not human safe, and it kills everything. So I don't recommend that product. But the other one I use about now when I'm going to plant in a couple of weeks, I'll go put Sluggo on my raised beds because I cover my beds with flakes of straw, and there's grass clippings and other things layered in there, but they tend to hide there over winter. And so as soon as they plant things, they eat them. So I go put the Sluggo out there now, and that takes care of the problem. I'm not sprinkling it all over my yard, just where my baby plants are going to be, because that's what they're going to eat.
So grass clippings are okay, but not leaves.
If you're layering in the fall, you can layer those things, yeah, in the right proportions. Yeah, I did leaves too. If I have them.
That's kind of what I was asking earlier, is
Yeah.
if you just do it every winter or take them out, make sure
Yeah.
nothing's on there,
Gotcha. Throughout the growing season.
slowly take it away and
Yeah.
then maybe break it up a little bit, leave some.
Yeah,
That's kind of.
thank you for clarifying. That's true. Yeah, so those are the 2 different Sluggos. That's my experience with those. And then I never go to step 5, but if you're desperate and you have a problem, then you need to get it away. That's kind of a nice way to break it down if you're having issues. Proper soil, crop rotation, all these things are gonna help your plants fight things off themselves. So a healthy plant shouldn't be overtaken by insects. If there's a nutrient deficiency in the soil, if they miss a watering a couple of cycles, if we had a hot snap and it's stressed them out, that makes them much more susceptible to being eaten by pests. The Maritime Northwest Garden Guide is a fantastic book. It's a thin book. It's like $17. I think you can get it direct from them. That's Seattle Tilth organization that makes it. It takes you through month by month the thing that you should be doing in your garden. It talks about all these things that can happen. Highly recommend. It helps keep your garden going all year round in a really nice, concise way. If you have a problem and you want someone to tell you what it is, you're not sure, if it doesn't match anything I've given you, you can always contact the Master Gardeners and ask them. They have experts that you can contact. You can email them, you can send them pictures. They're at most farmers markets throughout the summer. I ask them on their behalf that you bring like the most complete picture you can. So if you've got a problem, bring a piece of the plant with you. Take a picture of the whole area. Like if you've crowded everything really close together, you're gonna have more problems. And they're gonna tell you spacing's out so predators can get in there. And this is what this is, and they'll help you. You can call them on the phone too. They have lots of ways to help you out. They also have lots of publications on their website. If you just go search WSU Master Gardeners, the main page, they have so many, it's a rabbit hole. You can spend hours. They have so many resources. And in each extension has their own chapter, like the Pierce County Master Gardeners through WSU has their own resources on their own website. And between all of them, there's just so much out there, and it's all science-based education. So you can trust it. Lots of resources there. Whew. That's me. If you need to email me, you are welcome to email me anytime. Thank you for being here. I am going to give you a quick survey. I'm going to tell you about a couple more handouts. Hang out and ask some questions if you want. On our table there, this is us. If you've never seen this newsletter come to your home, hopefully you have. Yeah, this is us. We've been mailing this to everybody for decades. Usually has recycling information. I can also answer all your recycling questions. We have some more series going on. So this one with the library, we have one more next week on the 2nd, the food waste prevention and collection simplified. So how do we use the cart? Because now you can put food waste in your yard waste cart. How do you keep the bin from getting icky? We'll talk about all those fun things. And then we have other series happening. We teach a lot of composting classes and we're doing them. Some of them are hybrid, some of them are in person only. So we've got those classes over there. And we're doing a talking trash series in April for Earth Month. Just like, where does it go to? Where's the landfill? What can I do with this? What happens to my plastics when I put them in the recycle bin? That kind of stuff. And some repair and recycling references. Give me a great class.
To one of those. It's really good.
Oh, thank you. This is what I get to organize and also teach. So I appreciate that feedback. You have any other questions? Yeah.
One of the biggest problems I have in my yard is moles.
Oh.
Is there any kind of recommendation other than a shotgun?
So I know we mentioned rats and mice, moles, things like that. So that is out of my area of expertise. As experience of watching my dad fight moles for my whole life in his garden, there's not a whole lot you can do. I can tell you that moles are attracted to bulbs and worms. They want to eat those things. So I mean, if you're having a really hard time, you got a nice area, you can put some rabbit wire in the ground to keep them from getting to it. That's also why I went to raised beds, because I didn't want to have to deal with them coming up through my garden. I haven't found anything very effective. Hair clippings down in the mill holes doesn't really work. The stuff you can put down there that you buy in a bag, it's super toxic stuff. Like, there's nothing great. Sound waves, I don't know. Anybody else have a better suggestion for moles?
Because everything is bulbs. Like I have like lilies and irises and daffodils. I mean, everything is bulbs.
Yeah,
We have those traps, like the traps, those don't work.
yeah. I don't know. There's experts that will come out and remove them, but I just think it's a matter of time before someone else comes and takes their place.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of what we have here. Raised beds.
A red healer.
A red healer, yeah.
My girlfriend's got a red healer and she goes out and catches them all the time.
Fascinating. Dog, okay.
Yep.
But I have a French bulldog. She's not doing
Oh,
nothing.
yeah. Yeah. Barn cat, I don't know. And same with rats and mice. And my best advice is if you're composting outside and you're mixing your food waste in with your yard waste, that is gonna attract them every time. So I never recommend people do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So eliminating their food source can help.
Well, I was told years ago, or read it somewhere, that moles are very antisocial, and so there's usually only one in your area unless it's mating season. And if you catch one of them, I mean, then somebody else will move in at the same time, because they're all pre-done.
Made, yeah.
Oh, and I don't know if that's true, but that is what I've read, that they said, and that they can go for like a mile a day,
Oh, wow.
tunneling for like a mile a day.
I don't know. Like I said, in your vegetable garden, I haven't seen there be too much of a. I know, sorry, moles aren't my thing.
Well, if you have clay soil, you don't have moles.
Yeah. Yeah.
While Mary's handing out her surveys, I just want to say thank you all for coming today. Please keep your eye out for other events like this that we have or other programs. This one was offered, we're trying to offer some more virtually and in-person hybridly at the same time. So thank you to those of you on Zoom that have joined us. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me or to Mary, and I will try to get you connected with Mary if you're connecting to me. Otherwise, thank you so much. We have some books in the back if you have anything, and lots more. The library system has lots of books on gardening and pest control and all of that, and lots of those EK books that Mary loves so much. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much.
Where do you want these?
If you want to lay them on the table on your way out, that'll be fine.
Okay,